Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Star Road podcast featuring me, Sterling, and this lovely gentleman in the glasses, Tyler.
How's it going today, Sterling? I'm really overwhelmed. That's the only word that I can really think of to describe all the different things that we have to talk about today. To the point where we got some news so late in the game, and we'll get to that very shortly, but we got some news so late in the game that we had to completely rework our news segment and even maybe chop a couple of the lesser important things that we had because we just had so much, which doesn't actually happen that often.
No, usually the news segment is pretty locked in. But making way for what happened this morning is something that's very called for. And I feel like I'm still waking up from
I know.
my rest. I feel like I was kind of just, you had your own story about being woken to this news, but I would have never imagined. I don't know.
Yeah, I wanted to give you the same feeling that I had by sending you what I did.
Well, it was magical. I just have to say it. But we did. Yep, we got a Pokemon Presents. That's what we're getting at.
Yeah, that's what we're referencing. Really unexpected, to the point that we didn't even know about it, and we're usually well prepared for these things. But it dropped the morning of recording this, and couldn't be more excited.
Absolutely not, dude. I mean, this is fantastic. But like I told you, I can't believe they're even following up so quickly. I mean, I feel like there's been so much going on with Pokemon, dude, and it seems like they're just keeping it rolling.
Yeah, but we love that.
And we also got some announcements about the other games that we're going to talk about in the Presents. That's pretty exciting. And Of course, we have the rest of the news. Let's not forget, we got some pretty big announcements and some cool insight into some things we're interested in and that we're going to talk about today, actually. The discussion is going to be collecting 101.
Yep. How to get started into game collecting or just retro collecting, any kind of collecting that, could be of interest. We kind of wanted to lay a little bit of groundwork for people who might not know how to get started. Would you agree with that, Sterling?
I would, but I got to tell you, it's rough today, man. If I were to start today, I would not have what I have behind me on this shelf.
And all the more reason to, I think a lot of what we're going to talk about is being selective, being patient, prioritizing.
That is such a great point in the topic, honestly, is patience. Yeah. That's something that I definitely was going to touch on.
Yeah.
And I just had a conversation with my girl about that. But yeah, that's going to be great for that. Mm-hmm. The top 5 this time around, it's almost like a year-end thing. Usually we only do this on special occasion, but the Steam Deck is knocking at the door. So
it is a special occasion.
It is a special occasion. We're going to be doing a top 10 Steam Deck indies.
Yep.
Basically recommendations. We collabed on this list, went down and just basically the 10 games we have to cut it down to recommend, specifically for play on the Steam Deck.
Yep. I'm really excited because the candidates for this list come from all over the place. And it was a collaborative list, and we both have a lot of experience with a good chunk of the games on the list. So I couldn't be more excited to get into that list. There's a lot to be excited about in this episode, Sterling.
No question, bro. We're gonna have the usual 3-shop and talk about a little extra 3-shop, eShop stuff, But I think we should just get into the news. We'll save the Presents.
Let's do it.
But let's just roll right into the news, man. Kicking it off, I just wanted to talk about the Steam Deck. How about we just go right into it?
Yep.
Specifically, we've been seeing a lot of not a lot of teardowns, but a teardown or two, some gameplay, some performance, statistics, and just people analyzing the Steam Deck that have gotten hands on it. And people are liking what they see. One
we're
thing
liking what we see.
we are indeed liking what we see. We're ready for it. But I noticed that New Blood Interactive on their YouTube channel, they uploaded some gameplay for Dusk and Ultra Kill. Ultra Kill I haven't played. Looks like a fun game, but we love Dusk.
Yeah, and, that's a big game for you.
Yeah, so seeing this played on the Steam Deck, not the most demanding game, but I think you and I are in the same exact boat on not being most interested in the most performance-intensive titles.
Couldn't agree more.
Not exactly where we exist.
No, and that will definitely be on display in our top 10 list later.
Yeah, that's a good point. It will. But yeah, they uploaded some gameplay. It was just cool to see the Steam Deck being handed around. Units are getting played. Like I said, they got the Steam Deck is here on the Steam homepage. I think it's coming, bro. It's coming fast,
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on my email. I had a Q2 order sort of expectation, and I think yours was Q3. Is that right?
It just said after Q2.
After Q2. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens, but I'm really excited.
And we both got the middle model, so I don't know if the model type is going to have any impact on the availability time.
I think it will.
But it's worth note,
I think it will, and I think it might punish us because I imagine a lot of people probably went for the middle.
I actually thought more people would have went for the bottom.
Really?
I really did.
It's just the low amount of onboard storage and the slower hard drive type. That was the biggest turnoff for me.
I feel you, but most people probably know they're going to jam this thing with some type of storage. And they're not thinking about the things you're thinking about or I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
They're thinking about that price tag.
We'll see. But I'm excited. They mentioned that if people don't pick up their orders or, cancel their orders, things like that within a certain time frame, they're just going to be moving up the list for, the next people in line. So
we talked about that too.
Yeah, we should be on the lookout for this stuff.
Yep.
Soon, I think. Hopefully.
I'm just looking forward to the Steam Deck, man. When it happens, it happens. I'm loving it.
Yep, definitely. Big time.
We
very, very excited for it.
Definitely. We didn't get any official word on what the game itself looks like or any gameplay footage, but we did get a Street Fighter 6 teaser trailer. That is a big deal.
Huge deal, man. Really excited to see what they do. I know there was a lot of, community sort of disagreement about 5 and everything. So kind of like a fresh start for the franchise and the fan base and everything.
Yeah, they didn't show too much, just a quick cinematic, which is not the in-game graphics, obviously. Street Fighter's been known very recently for the cinematics and whatnot, so just knowing that, we knew it was in development, we knew it was going to happen, but to see that it's, being recognized now, okay, here it is, it's coming. That's pretty cool, man. I mean, I'm a big Street Fighter fan, so it's cool to see this. And they also announced a whole nother collection, a Capcom fighting collection.
Yeah.
It's going to be coming.
We love to see these too.
Yep. And by the way, Street Fighter 6, they said more news coming this summer. So we'll see what the news is. I would imagine they're going to do some character reveals and whatnot and start getting into what content is actually in the game.
Ken, Ryu.
Obviously, yeah. But the Capcom Fighting Collection coming June 24th. A lot of titles I'm not familiar with, to be honest with you, but I did see Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo and Hyper Street Fighter 2. Those two I'm familiar with. Mm-hmm. We know with Darkstalkers, there's 2 titles coming that never were released in the West, so that's pretty cool. And basically, a lot of these are fighters that it seems Street Fighter characters have come from, but they're lesser known fighting games. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, because I'm not familiar with hardly any of them. But I'll probably be picking up this collection. This will probably be not a $60 game. I mean, I could see this being a $30 go on sale pretty soon situation.
Yeah, but it's more content within the Street Fighter vein, right? Most of these games are kind of on the same wavelength.
Definitely, it's like a bonus collection. You know, I have the 30th anniversary collection, and that's pretty awesome. But this seems like a bonus collection. A lot of variety. I think it's gonna be a pretty cool thing. It's cool to get the Street Fighter hype going and then release another collection. That's a pretty good little move, you know. We also got the Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask on the Switch Online, bro. It happened.
Unbelievable.
We knew it was gonna happen. This was announced, flashed across the screen at us, you know. I mean, pretty obviously, we knew there was a list of upcoming games, but Majora's Mask is here. I don't know if you watched the trailer. Very feelsy to see repurposed, you know, trailer for I love how they do these trailers for these old games, even though we saw commercials when we were kids, but they kind of rework, you know, gameplay / cinematics to
a lot of callbacks.
Yeah. So the trailer was really cool, man. And it really showcased the vibe of the game that we love so much. Just the darkness and the inevitability of it. So that came out 225. I haven't booted it yet, but that's a bit of a wormhole for me because once I start playing Majora's Mask, that's a hard game to put down. Yeah. At the time, that was like Breath of the Wild is these days, or
it's pretty much times, 1-on-1.
You know.
But it's on such a different wavelength.
Yeah, which I think it's the open-ended nature is what I mean, probably. Yeah.
One other piece of news I wanted to bring up before we get into the Pokemon talk. Nintendo announced this past weekend that the 3DS and Wii U eShops are going to be discontinued next year. That is a big bummer, Sterling. I don't know how else to say it. Like, we are both big fans of the 3DS. I've had a Wii U for a while, and I own, you know, a lot of digital content from both of these places. So, like, what are your thoughts on this? And obviously, we know that this had to be coming, but it's just kind of, there's some things about it that I'm just not really happy with. You know what I mean?
I'm really bummed about it. I just want to be upfront. And I'm in a weird place here because I've purchased quite a bit of virtual console content on my 3DS. Mm-hmm. Basically, I have, you know how you have the folders on the 3DS? Like, I have one single folder that's full, and it's all virtual console, basically.
Yep.
And so on one hand, I'm like, you know, I have a lot of stuff on my 3DS, so that's good. But the amount I have on it doesn't make me feel any better about the lack of availability, because you never know when you're going to suddenly have an interest spark in something that's on the virtual console that maybe you hadn't purchased before. Maybe like you had never heard of Legend of the River King. And you were like, oh shit, I could get that for like, you know, $5, $6 on the virtual console. But no, not anymore. That was the past, you know.
Yeah. There's just a ton of games. There's just a ton of games that are no longer going to be available for purchase. And I that's the thing that just chaps me, right? The virtual console library, I just find myself wondering, why couldn't this library be utilized in perpetuity in some way? They obviously put a lot of time and effort and resources into creating this library of content that they're now just going to completely abandon.
But Tyler, the big thing, and I just had this conversation with my girl, is it is money for nothing. I don't understand why they wouldn't take money for nothing. Like I was telling her, you look me straight in my eyes, Tyler, and tell me that right now, if they drop, and I'm going to go high on this, they wouldn't even charge $10 because you can get it on the 3DS for what, $5.99. Just right now, if they drop Pokemon Crystal on Switch for $9.99, how many million people do you think would pick that up?
I mean, at least 2 in this podcast.
I'm talking about millions of people.
I know,
It's guessing how many millions. But you see, multiply that by $10. They can make such an... it's so readily available, it's not even funny.
And they've obviously shown that they possess the capability to emulate all of these systems. And even if you can't, we know you can emulate NES, Super Nintendo, Wii, and GameCube and N64, right? They've proven that. So even if you don't offer the games that are on other systems, like Game Boy games being the biggest thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Maybe if you told me we're going to give you those 5 systems, virtual console libraries, the Game Boy will figure out later, we can't do it right now. I would 100% accept that, right? Like, I just don't know. The capability is so obviously there.
I just don't get it because on one hand, the streaming services seem to be, the hot thing. But at the same time, though, the only place we see Game Boy games, excuse me, is in these collections from the developer. So you've got Contra Collection, you've got Castlevania Collection by Konami, whatnot, and these are games that would be like obvious includes in an online package like these, Switch Online consoles.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder why would you get 64 before Game Boy when Game Boy couldn't do data? There's nothing easier for them to emulate. Nothing easier. I mean,
yeah.
But then
I don't know, man.
There's no virtual console
option. A lot more questions
option.
than answers.
Before we would have said, we don't get a virtual console on Switch, but we do have our 3DS one, our Wii U one. Now you can't say that. There is no virtual console.
Yeah, if you don't have it by now, sorry about your luck.
It's a sad thing, dude. It's funny because we did the 3DS retrospective earlier on in the podcast, but I actually think we said everything then that still stands now.
100%.
I'm glad I got my 3DS almost 2 inches away from my foot right now, actually. It might go away in the public eye, but I mean, hey, dude, I got shit from the 80s behind me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
When it means something to someone, it's not gone.
Definitely. But the thing that just chaps me is the availability going away. That's just what I can't wrap my head around.
Same.
The virtual console is such a perfect solution. I just don't understand why they couldn't figure some way to make it work in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, even if it was,
I don't
even
like
if we
that.
had to pay again, even if we had to, if it was only available, you could only pay for a game if you already had a Switch Online membership. Like, that would be kind of weird, but we would still do it, obviously. Like, I don't know.
We could potentially be in a situation where if the 3DS you have all your shit on breaks, then tough shit.
That's correct, because the Wii U and 3DS are known for being notoriously difficult to like restore once you lose stuff. If circumstances aren't exactly perfect.
So if the shop's
in terms
completely
of, like,
down,
getting a new system and getting everything back.
Yeah, if the shop's completely down and at some point there's no even re-download option, whatever you got
Which
on,
they did say there will be for the foreseeable future.
The foreseeable future is still a problem.
Yeah.
So I guess if you wanna buy a factory sealed, overpriced 3DS, load it down with all your shit and let it rot in a box. I mean, that seems to be your option if you want something close to forever, I guess.
It's a bummer, man, but it's just going to increase piracy, for these things, and that's going to increase people's issues, like, pirating games and everything. We don't really talk about it much because you and I personally don't really do it much, just like, especially these days. But like, now there's no legal option for me to purchase Golden Sun on the systems that I have now, you know, as of the ending of these things. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
You kind of left with your back against the wall, man. I don't know.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry. We'll keep it going with some positive news stuff and talk Pokemon, but it has to be mentioned, and it's unfortunate, but
it does. Just go ahead and hop on your 3DS, update your games, whatever you need to do.
Buy any virtual console or other digital content that you want, because not just virtual console, it's all digital content. That's
that's correct.
3DS and Wii U games included.
Yeah,
so.
I selfishly think straight ahead to
of course
the virtual console. You know,
of course, but yeah, like I own a few digital like Wii U games on the Wii U that I just was like, I want that game, but I'm not going to buy it. You know, because I got a Wii U very late after its sort of life cycle and everything.
Yeah, they did a lot of sales on NES titles, you know, and most of them I have on cartridge, you know, but they do like $2.99 sales on NES games. I can't tell you how many of those I picked up.
Yeah, and
it made some things that, you know, I'm pretty sure they had Mighty Final Fight. Like, dude, that's like a multi-$100 cartridge. Pretty fantastic to be able to get a game too expensive to ever own and play it. Like the official ROM. Yeah. For the same prices, you know, across the board as any other game on that platform. That was the beauty of the virtual console. There's no individual value on title. You could buy a $5.99 shit game or a $5.99 masterpiece, which go buy your Pokemons, buy your Pokemon trading card game, get all of it.
Definitely. Pretty disappointing, but we'll keep you guys, you know, reminded as the milestones for this sunsetting kind of arrive or get close.
Yeah, we'll stay in tune with that. But let's talk about some Pokemon milestones announced in today's Pokemon Presents that came so unexpectedly.
Absolutely.
On the day of recording. This is definitely a unique situation.
Really, truly. We rarely, I mean, you know, it's no secret. We record and publish these on Sundays mostly. And so because of that, we rarely get announcements and things on the day of the podcast. Very infrequently.
Yep, but the Pokemon Company does what they want, and thankfully it lined up with us doing what we want. So today we get to talk about...
Imagine if it happened during the podcast. That would be chaos.
That'd be pretty exciting.
Just imagine we're halfway through a top 5 and we just get an announcement for a new Pokemon game.
You'd be like, Sterling, I just looked at my phone and I think we have something to add to the news.
Sterling, press pause.
Pause. Yeah. That will eventually happen.
It's surely, yeah. I mean, you know, it wasn't that far off. We have recorded at that time in the past.
Definitely. We used to record earlier on average, yeah.
So, anyway. But they announced a few pretty spicy things with this.
They did.
We're not going to cover everything.
But there are a few very key points that are very important to us on games that we're still playing. Mm-hmm. That's a big thing about it. First off is Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. There's a Shaman event. Now this is triggered, and yeah, we did need that. That trailer was beautiful.
The environment that Shaman is in looks absolutely gorgeous.
It's like an isolated, beautiful field. It's like Elysium. It's just like some heaven somewhere.
They did this for a lot of these like legendaries in this part of the franchise where they gave them their own little area, especially stuff like that required the e-reader or special events. Like they have this one special area and it's just like very ornately decorated and everything.
Just like they used to have like the glorious boss rooms for like Lugia and Ho-Oh and...
Oh, man.
And a much more, you know, dated visual representation, but it's just the evolution of it, you know. Because we
know the straight shot, but just think about the joy back in the day trying to get to Lugia. Like,
dude, I was just talking about this too. I just remember how excited I was when I caught Lugia the first time on Silver.
just getting to it, like the first few times before you really memorize that path, even with a guide, it just felt really difficult.
You know, I just realized that they started off putting the final evolutions of the starters, but then after that, they never did again.
How do you mean?
Like on the covers of Pokemon games. I never really thought about that.
Yeah, it's
like,
always been the box legendaries.
Yeah, red, blue, and green were like, you know, the 3 starter evolution finals, you know.
Mm-hmm. And yellow, yep.
And then you get Pikachu on yellow, and then all of a sudden after that, it's just legendaries.
Pretty much,
from then on.
Yeah. That's an interesting thought. I never
pretty
really
big
thought
decision
that.
Was made pretty quickly in the franchise's lifetime, huh?
There's something about Ho-Oh and Lugia that just really drove home the mysticism of the games, and I feel like that kind of stuck.
They could have did like Pokemon Pink and Purple though with Mew and Mewtwo.
It's never too late.
We're talking Twilight Zone, Star Road here.
Pink and Purple.
Yeah.
That's so similar to Scarlet and Violet.
It is, isn't it? Kind of,
yeah.
But I mean, that's a pretty good clash. Let's not get too far into the presents though. We got the big announcement coming. Anyway, the Oak's letter is what you're going to need for the Shaman event. That's a mystery gift item. You're going to want to claim that before Sunday, March 27th. And you're also going to want to enter the Hall of Fame and obtain the National Dex. Now, you obtain the National Dex by talking to Professor Rowan after you complete the Sinnoh Dex. Obviously, you enter the Hall of Fame after you defeat the Elite Four.
Right. Okay.
So, and of course, the Dex thing is not. It's not so difficult, right? Because
it's just seen.
It's just seen. It's just seen. Yeah. So.
And it's part of the story for the game, really.
Yeah. So maybe you got some friends. You can get some trading going. You know, grind out the last of it, and just so you can get the event going. You know.
Yeah, but you can get the letter at any time.
Oh yeah.
You
so
just can't use it.
Yeah.
Until then,
you're gonna want to claim your letter for sure.
Definitely.
Moving on to Legends Arceus, but you know what? Before we move on, we didn't get any mention of home. We had this conversation earlier, so I kind of glossed over it. But let's just very quickly. I'm thinking we talked about this. Next Pokemon Presents, they're going to say, "Oh, Ilka home integration, no question, no talks, nothing mentioned."
Really strange.
Adding events to the game, supporting the game.
In the last, I mean, this is the first time in a main series Pokemon game recently that home hasn't been at the top of the discussion.
Yeah, it's a great point because let's not forget this is a paid service. I still pay monthly.
Yeah,
like many people in the background are paying, and it's like $2 something.
Even if with Sword and Shield with the scuffed decks. Like they were giving us updates when it wasn't available on launch. Like they were like, "Here's our target," and then that target got close, and they said, "We're still working on it. Here's our target," and then they met that.
And then they integrated Crown Tundra and Isle of Armor and so on and so forth. Yeah.
So, I find it kind of curious that we haven't heard anything in the last few public sort of things, but. Yeah, I mean that's it. I just find it curious. Are they sunsetting home? Should we be concerned about that? Like, is it going to be replaced by something else again for like the third time? I don't know.
Maybe they're focusing their attention to Scarlet and Violet. Maybe they've been working on Scarlet and Violet. I don't know, man.
I don't know.
Anyway, thought we'd mention that no home yet for Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I still play Shining Pearl, so I'd like to see some home integration. That'd be great.
I don't have a good explanation as to why it wouldn't just be there.
But let's lighten the mood up. We got a free update for Legends Arceus. Software version update 1.1.0, my friend.
Couldn't have come at a better time because we'll talk about this after in gaming and pickups, but I just beat the main story of the game last night, so
my boy T's been on his grind.
Yep.
Glad to see it, bro.
It's been really good, but we'll talk about that later, a little bit later.
Definitely. They're titling this Daybreak. So it seems like we're tracking down some alphas, I guess potentially legendaries. You know, we'll see.
We'll see, yeah.
And they have a special gift that is definitely what we need to mention on here, because actually 30, 30, and 30 on some balls, bro. Ultra balls, Gigaton balls, Jet balls. If you put in the mystery gift password, all caps, Arceus Adventure, you'll get 90 balls total, 30 of each.
Yeah. Are you going to use these? We didn't talk about this earlier.
I mean, why not?
I don't think so. Yeah, it's so funny because in the past I talked about not using them, but that was more in the context of the beginning of the game.
Right. Like this is just like now, supplemental to the game. Like,
yeah,
exactly. You're catching so much more also.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have no issue using these, but really nice to see. And the fact that they have it as a named update, they named it Daybreak. That's interesting to me because that tells me there may be much more, or like at least several more of these, which is pretty exciting to think about.
I think we'll get an expansion. This is probably some bridging content. This is just to show that they're keeping support up for the game. They said you can also battle special Pokemon at the at that dojo. I know it's probably not even
special
called
trainers.
Yeah, you can go over there.
Trainer battles,
which is pretty cool. I mean, that's part of the update.
Definitely. I mean, I don't want to give too much away, but the lack of trainer battles in Arceus in total is pretty noticeable. Like, you really don't spend much time battling other trainers, and that's partially due to just the story of the game, and not that many people are trainers in the game. Like,
it's a great point. Yep.
But it's nice to get some more, like get some more options for battling.
Definitely, man. I'm still working my way through the game. I'm enjoying it quite a bit, I have to say that. I've just found myself sidetracked by the endless grind. Just the what's over here? Oh, time to catch 6 of it.
We talk about it. We talk about the backlog.
Oh, yeah. But that'll be available until March 31st, the mystery gift code. Arceus Adventure. Put it in, get it, don't miss out.
So March 27th for the Shaman event and March 31st for the Arceus gift.
That is correct, yep. They also announced production has begun on an animated series based in the Hisui region. Anticipated to launch, like we wanted to say specifically, anticipated to launch later this year.
I have a big interest in this.
I do too. I mean, we're talking about lore here. We're talking about like origins.
We're talking about Pokemon anime. Like, this is our roots, right? And they've done it a lot of different ways. Some of them I've loved. Some of them I haven't been as excited about. But, you know, this puts me more in the mindset of something like Pokemon Origins, which is something that I shared with you that was sort of web-only anime content that they created.
Yeah.
This gives me that same sort of vibe, and I absolutely love that series. So I'm really excited to see that they're continuing to make like this type of content. Really, really excited.
Without question, dude. I'm very interested in this. And
the Hisui region is one that actually has my interest. They did enough with world building in the game to make me interested in continuing to learn this backstory.
Definitely, because like this is the roots of the roots. This is the origin of the origin. This is I like where they're going with all this, man.
I do too. Pokemon is getting love, and you know, Sterling's about to explain the biggest reason why, but you know, that's always been our number one like addiction from day one. So
Yep.
it's never going to be out of interest for us.
No. But the final big announcement on the presents is the next generation of Pokemon. And that's Pokemon Scarlet, and Pokemon Violet.
Sterling, before we say anything, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Are you going to look into purchasing Scarlet or Violet? Just knee-jerk for yourself. I know that you'll end up getting both for you and your partner, but just for you specifically, just knee-jerk reaction.
My knee-jerk reaction is that I know my girl's gonna want Violet, so I'm probably already definitely arm behind my back getting Scarlet. Now that's very rare for me because I always get the second version.
And that's what I was gonna say. I always get the first, always. But purple is my favorite color. So you were gonna get Violet. I'm going to get Violet, most likely.
There's no question that I'm going to get Scarlet then, because it just makes sense in my life.
And it's funny, too, because Ruby was your other first.
It was. Yep. You're absolutely correct.
So it's on the same wavelength.
I think it's just meant to be.
Yeah. But yeah, man, really excited. They showed not a lot. They just
showed us the starters, really.
They showed us the starters. They showed us a little bit of the graphics and sort of what looked like a big city in the region, which I saw people talking about represents like Spain and Portugal. And a lot of the starters' attributes are references to like Spanish culture and lore, which is really cool. So really excited to see where they take this flavor and put like the Spanish twist on Pokemon. I'm actually really looking forward to that.
Absolutely, dude.
Every region that they've done, for the outside of Japan sort of regions with, they did sort of France and they did, the UK, like with Galar and everything. It's always so interesting to get their take on these different cultures. So, and I think, Spain and Portugal, the Iberian Peninsula, sort of that is going to lend itself really well to Pokemon.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad with the geographical choice. And the big thing here, I wanted to save it, but let's talk about the starters.
Okay, let's do it.
So we got this cute grass cat that I know my girl's going to pick already. Sprigatito. We've got this cute, this dude couldn't be more cute. Little dinosaur looking guy, man, named Fuecoco. And then we've got this swaggin' white duckling with this gelled back Elvis hair.
Pompadour.
He's got it going on, and his name is Quaxley. Now, this is always the biggest decision, but who are you drafting, bro?
You already know.
Do I know? Are you drafting Quaxley because of the swag?
Fuecoco all the way.
Oh, dude, I'm doing Fuecoco too anyway. I don't care if you are too.
Doesn't matter. I'm you know me, man. I'm fire every time.
And I'm not fire every time. I'm fire sometimes, but in this situation, I need Fuecoco.
I think it's going to be a fire dragon type, and I cannot pass that up.
And I love the personality. I was reading this article on Games Radar, and he's described as laid back fire Pokemon that does things at his own pace. I'm all about that chill. I'm all about that chill nature.
That's the Star Road podcast in a nutshell.
Absolutely, dude. So that's so funny. Collaborative starter pick, Fuecoco. There we go.
Love Fuecoco, man. Can't wait to see what its final forms look like.
Yeah,
Cannot
but
wait.
shout out to the other two. I really like the designs of these starters. I really do. A lot of times new starters come out and people have their mixed opinions on them. I think they look fine. I think all of them are cute,
Yeah, man. I think that I think it's going to be tough to choose, even though we're so dead set. Like, there's no wrong choice.
If Quaxley evolves into Elvis, I might have to restart my run.
Another save file. Or just get it traded over.
Second copy, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But man, these are potentially coming worldwide late this year.
That's what it said, yeah. Late this year.
And that's all they had to say about it, dude. We got the starters. We got the cinematic, very reminiscent of, like we talked about, the old Pokemon commercials.
Yeah, we did.
And, you know, and I thought what you said was interesting. It's kind of hard to put together what they're getting at in the trailer. Maybe they're getting at nothing, but it does seem like there's something going on, you know. I thought you had an interesting point there.
Yeah, I think there'll end up being some hidden references. We'll get some YouTube analysis of the trailer, I'm sure, and get a few, you know, subtle things that were in there that we missed.
I saw some people thought it was going to be Detective Pikachu 2 or something. I honestly could see that with the way it started and everything.
But Detective Pikachu game on the Switch would be amazing.
Oh, I'd be on that, yeah. I think I played the demo on the 3DS one, but I never pulled the trigger on actually getting the game.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems kind of like a walk around Detective Phoenix Wright type of thing.
Yeah, which we love that.
Yeah, and I mean
investigative.
Pokemon's in it, so
yeah.
But that concludes quite the hefty news segment. And you know, we used to do gaming and pickups every episode. It was kind of like a regular thing, but we don't always pick things up. And the gaming we do, we kind of obviously state for the most part. But we just thought we'd kind of catch up and do one this time around.
Yeah, man.
But just specifically because today's discussion is Collecting 101. I mean, the accrual of games is kind of the heart of it.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
So, I don't know what you've got to talk on as far as pickups. I personally did some shopping recently. Haven't been out much, you know. We haven't gone out near like we used to. But we decided to go out and hit a couple stores, and I did pick up a couple things because we don't go shopping often.
Yeah.
So I do have a few things to mention there. A few little retro purchases I've already told you about, but it's out of my system. Don't fear, because that shit can be dangerous for sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it can.
But anything you picked up of note since even since we've last spoken about gaming and pickups in general, man?
Sure. I did pick up Tony Hawk off the last sale for Switch. That was something that we mentioned potentially doing last episode.
And I didn't. Shame on me.
No, it's all good, man. But I did pick it up and played it a little bit. Definitely want to play it some more, but it feels quite good on the Switch. I got to admit, I'm pretty happy to have it. Just having it in handheld is going to be really nice as well.
Yeah, I kind of feel I feel a little dirty because, you know, I talked about the game, and I think it was one of my on a list we did of like hype releases for a year, and I still didn't get it. But the concept, I think I said, for me, it's a balance of the concept of Tony Hawk on Switch to me is so hype, but I don't have a lot of attachment to 1 and 2. My heart is rooted in Pro Skater 3, Underground 2, and that's all of it.
You like the open world games better.
I don't know about that. I mean, I also like Proving Ground. Proving Ground is really good.
Other than that, I played a ton of Arceus. Obviously beat the main story, now into sort of the part of the post game where you're kind of just going to be chasing down a bunch of legendaries back to back. So that's pretty fun. I did manage to get on to Mario Golf and get my Luigi outfit unlocked.
Hey,
that was very important to me. And obviously it wouldn't be an episode if we didn't have some sort of Mario Golf talk. So that's
here
definitely,
it is. Yep.
That's definitely one. And that's about it. I don't think I got anything else too crazy. I did pick up Terraria, which I believe we mentioned on the last sale as well.
Yes, totally worth it, dude.
Yep. So looking forward to getting some time on that. I have played it a lot on the PC, but never on, you know, anything else. So looking forward to getting into that. And I think that's it for me.
Well, I feel scummy because I have quite a bit. But I know we had talked about some retro pickups with the imports and whatnot, you know. I had mentioned the Mario Golf 64. I don't know if I noted that the Paper Mario box was Japanese, but that is definitely Japanese. I did not get a U.S. copy. I just want that to be known. Because that's very expensive, and I don't want to be seen as somebody who would pay that for that. But on top of that, I mentioned the Rare Replay for Xbox One. Haven't cracked that open and put it in yet, man. I really wanted to hook up to Xbox One and see what's up with it. I had Animal Forest come in. I think we had briefly spoken about that.
Yeah, and you said you were able to get some time into that one.
Just a little bit, but that's one of those games. We keep talking about these imports where some of them are perfect for the language barrier. Animal Crossing, you're not going to get the same experience in Japanese.
No, unfortunately.
It's so cool to walk around on a 64 and like see this primitive build of the GameCube one. And I love having it in my collection. Unfortunately, though, I won't be able to read the dialogue of the villagers and whatnot. Still, very cool to own it and very cool to see it in action.
Definitely.
But I also got Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. I think I told you for like $10, dude.
That's a steal and a half.
Started playing that, and I played that for about an hour, bro. I had to put it down. You know what's up with that.
I really do.
And then, you know what? I actually didn't get to show you. I'll show you live on cam. My final purchase I'm making retro-wise for a while, Tyler. I'm telling you. This baby right here. Have a look at this, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Let me get this better.
Look how nice that is. I like that it's just a super close-up of Mario's face.
This is Mario's Picross for Game Boy, Japanese, complete in box.
Look
at this is the spine. Look at the spine, bro.
That's what I was going to say, man. The box looks pristine.
It truly is, dude. Everything's in it. It's beautiful. Look how small a Japanese Game Boy boxed game is.
And it's rectangular as opposed to square.
Yeah. This is a beautiful thing, bro. But, and you know what? I'd like to go ahead and, this is totally not a paid advertisement, but retroprotection.com. I have to recommend that site because I wanted to get a protector for the Japanese Game Boy game, you know. So I went on there and I kind of looked at what else they had, and I wound up buying a few protectors because really, they don't charge hardly anything. You just pay the shipping, really. I mean, a lot of these protectors are like 90 cents. And it's archive grade plastic that if you have any boxed copies of anything you just want to keep nice, you just get these. You know, I have all my boxed NES games and various systems, you know. I have certain copies.
Have protectors of all shapes and sizes.
Yeah, they have even custom items. Like, for example, they have one like specifically for your Pikachu 64 if you had it boxed. Things with different dimensions, you know what I mean? Like, or Earthbound. Earthbound came with the strategy guide. It was a really big box. You know.
Do they have things for like unboxed N64 cartridges or anything like that?
Yeah, they have stuff for loose carts. They've got
nice.
Yeah, definitely. I have a few for the NES cartridges, and I don't put them in them. Like I have a whole box of official those snap cases that have the Nintendo logo on them from back in the day, the blue ones, and I've accumulated so many of them. But I don't keep them in them. I like keeping the cartridges kind of like raw on the shelf, so I don't use them as much. But for box stuff, that's the way to go, dude.
Well, and if you ever need to pack those cartridges, you know you're going to be busting those out or transport them in some significant way. Like that's
definitely transport's another. Yeah, but yeah, retroprotection.com for sure. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say they're great for resale too.
They are.
If you're gonna sell a game, that's a great, you know, something to put it in the box.
That is so funny you say that because I've done so much eBay selling, thousands of dollars of retro games I've sold, and you know, and I never upcharge too much for it. I have these things. I was buying them in bulk in some cases for things like NES, you know. So if I'm selling something and I have a protector for it, or say I had something that was, the protector's only for this item, I'm not going to keep the protector.
Correct.
I'll sell you what the game's worth, and then the protector is just incentive. So I wouldn't even consider the protector in the price of the game. People like to upcharge for it.
No, it's no different than
I think
I've sold a lot of Magic
it just makes
cards.
your listing shine.
Yeah, I've sold a lot of Magic cards. Like, you always want to ship these in a top loader. Obviously, a card is a little different than a cartridge, but
Yeah.
that's the mindset that I approach it from, you know?
Yep. But the Mario's Picross really got me hyped just because I recently got back into Picross again, well documented on the podcast with the Picross. And I was going to do some talking about that in 3 shops, so I'll save it for that. But that was cool that I got to show you that. I forgot I didn't actually show you it yet.
Yeah, I'm happy to see it, man. It looks great.
But we went out and we went shopping, man, and I have got to say, Walmart was a bit of a disappointment. Just this time around for what I was looking for, you know. I was looking to get a set of Joy-Cons, man. I really wanted to get the purple and orange. I was going to get a purple and orange set. And then I was going to let my girl rock the Splatoon ones. And then I was going to send in our reds and blues to get fixed because we're having some drift issues.
Yeah, I got a couple drifty boys as well.
And I like rocking the double red and she likes rocking the double blue. So I figured, hey, you know what, dude? I'll bite the bullet. I'll get a set of newer Joy-Cons with colors I like. And then I'll send ours in and we'll have a shit ton of perfectly functional Joy-Cons. It works for both of us, you know. But I actually went around and I even stopped at GameStop and walked out immediately when I, you know, saw they had the boxes hanging. I'm like, oh, yeah, I was trying to get a set of the purple and orange Joy-Cons. He was like, oh, we have no Joy-Cons. I was like, oh, well, you have a good day. And we kind of just walked out.
They have no Joy-Cons.
Walmart had no Joy-Cons. Best Buy had no Joy-Cons. GameStop had no Joy-Cons. Just wanted to bring that up. That's something I took away from our trip out shopping.
That's odd.
And it's so interesting because any other time they were loaded down. When I suddenly want to get a set and I'm like, yeah, I'll drop $80 on some Joy-Cons. Now there's nothing to buy.
I feel like I always see tons of these different Joy-Cons, especially at GameStop.
I know geographically we're placed differently, but something might be going on around here, dude, because they're nowhere. I'm going to have to order some or something.
But this was, you know, I haven't looked recently either.
Yeah.
So it could be something, you know, it could be something specific. That's interesting, though.
But we had some really hype pickups on the road, dude. I got to say, one of those times I wish you would have been there, you know, like, and I'm sure the times you've gone to your retro stores you have around or you even call me while you're there, you know. We got Ring Fit Adventure. I had to get it. My girl has expressed interest in it. And it's funny because when we talked about when I was in Best Buy for like my birthday or something, would have gotten it, but box was messed up. So Best Buy came through. I actually got it. Oh man, you know what? I'm lying, Tyler. I got Ring Fit at Walmart and they priced it $10 cheaper than everywhere else.
Interesting.
So I shit on Walmart, and then I came back around, and now I look like an idiot. We got
everyday low prices.
We got Yep, everyday low prices.
You got that on rollback,
dude. They had about 3 in the case. I remember, you know, the guy. He kind of seemed a little edgy, kind of like I was bothering him. You know, like it just couldn't be bothered. And I'm like, yeah, well. He looks like maybe sometimes when somebody looks edgy, they might like Nintendo or something, but he didn't seem to find any humor or enjoyment in me getting Ring Fit Adventure. I think he was wearing like a Ramones shirt or something. Anyway, yeah, it's like $69.98 or something. Everywhere else we went and I saw it. It was there, but it was $80 flat. Have
you played it yet?
Absolutely. My girls played it a handful of times. I did more watching than playing, but I don't want to get into a review of the game, but let me tell you, when I went on, it literally wore me out, and I'm pretty active, but I got into a battle, and the attacks are exercises. Now, me and my girl were both shocked by one thing about this game. The ring con, that is a durable piece of equipment. You can bend that motherfucker to the point where you think it's going to snap, and it will not. It is meant to be, like, pushed as hard as you can.
Nice.
So when I did, like, the overhead press, and you have to hold it to charge your attack and then pull to attack. And then once you do, like, 30 reps, man, they really, really got me going, bro. And I actually did that shit before work, and they actually have some on-screen stretches to do to cool down from the exercise. I was feeling fantastic, man. And you can even take your pulse after you exercise with the IR sensor, like the little IR camera on the bottom of one of the Joy-Cons. So after every session, you like measure your pulse.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. There's just a lot of things about the game really like intrigued me. It actually is like it's like buying a $70 or $80 like home fitness trainer.
That's awesome though.
And there's even, there's even times when it's like put your ring con to the side and now you're like exercising. It's interesting, dude.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, man.
But it's really piqued the interest of my girl. I actually have this right here. I said, look, all I want after all of this is this right here.
The box.
Had to have it. This box is gigantic, dude.
It looks great though.
Oh, doesn't it? Yeah.
Reminds me of like a PC game.
Look at that up on the shelf.
That would take up the whole shelf.
I know.
Bigger than everything else.
I want to put it on it so bad, but it's just so big.
Put that on the wall.
So I kind of just slid it next to the shelf,
Yeah. That's cool though.
Yeah, man. But aside from the Ring Fit Adventure, which blew me away actually, I wound up picking up the Among Us Crewmate Edition for Switch. This was about the most impulsive pickup I can think of in a long time because I didn't really have much reason to get it.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of got back into playing Among Us. I know a lot of people have moved on from the game, but it's fun to play from time to time. It's I like games with that quick in and out game over, another one.
Mm-hmm.
Shit like that's addictive sometimes. But I decided to pick that up, and I actually haven't cracked it open yet, but I do plan on opening it because it's got some goodies inside. I want to see what color card I got. There's like 12 different access cards you get with the Crewmate Edition, and curious to see what color I got. I'll be opening that soon.
Yeah, dude. But
that, like, we've talked about this before. It's like the Loop Hero or the Quake Special Edition. I have it digitally. There's no reason to get a physical other than fandom for the game,
Yeah.
But yeah, I got that sitting on my limited run stand right here, Tyler. You can enjoy it while we sit here. My girl picked up Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. I was showing you some of the things inside the pack. It's pretty impressive, dude. There's a lot of includes. Because at first I'm like, why is it $14.99 digital but $30 physical? But I was like, that's pretty reasonable to have a physical copy be $15 more. But I mean, this thing had all kind of stuff in it,
Even some like ARG elements by the looks, right? Yeah,
like they had some like standees you can put together of all the characters. An official membership card that literally looks like my healthcare card that I just got in the mail,
Nice.
And then the interesting poem from Monica. Interesting stuff. It was cool to see all those things included. Also got a Bravely Default placemat and coaster set for $5. Couldn't believe this was in Best Buy. But
nice.
They were $5 and they were inside they put the games in the plastic sealed cases. I was like, what? This is so random. It was by the Steelbooks. I got my girl the Doom Eternal Steelbook. And I thought this is so interesting that they're selling Steelbooks standalone.
Yeah.
Because normally that's just something that's included in special editions and stuff. But it was cool to see Steelbooks being sold $10 a piece, pieced out, And I got me a Cowboy Bebop shirt. And that's about it, my brother.
Nice.
Mostly pickups, and the gaming has just been all over the place. A little bit of Arceus, a little bit of Among Us. I grind on Loop Hero from time to time, and me and my girl played Quake co-op yesterday. That was fantastic. We'll be continuing that.
Yeah, and you said you played some Shining Pearl as well.
Yep. I got back on Shining Pearl, doing some underground shit. I think I'm like 4 scene away from finishing the Sinnoh deck, so now that we got this Shaman event, I'm definitely going to be getting those 4 or 5 scene.
Yeah, that's got to happen.
And if you're trying to get there as well, I will help you in any way I can.
I have to assess the situation. I've beaten the Elite Four, but I haven't done much Dex work like on its own, so we'll have to see.
Just start sending me some little lists, bro, and we'll get some trades going. We'll get you there, and we'll get this event rolling.
Yeah, pretty excited.
But today's discussion topic is going to be collecting 101. This is something we decided to do because we talk about collecting a lot, but we don't ever talk about the method to the madness.
Not really, yeah, not in any great length.
And there's a lot of ways to approach this, but times have changed. That's certainly a factor. Where you live is a huge factor.
Definitely.
Where I live, it's funny because it's probably currently the worst place to do any type of retro hunting.
Yeah, you just don't have much in the way of stores for it around you.
Nope. But you can work around it because, some people look down on eBay when it comes to collecting. But when I look at funding my hobby, or you can totally agree with me on the Magic side, on the TCG side. I've sold many cards on my eBay shop as well, and I think you can agree cards are the easiest thing to sell.
I mean, in terms of size, certainly, yeah.
As far as the method of shipment, it's just the easiest thing.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's where I wanted to start with this is flipping to obtain. That is a big place to start because sometimes you can't go out in the wild. You would, first off, people would say, "Oh, go out in the wild, go look for stuff." Dude, when I was like 2015 or so, when I was like really, really into this shit, 2015, 2016, I was just getting in before the end of that era of pawn shops being super lucrative as far as people looking for old games. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because suddenly, dude, like just about a year and a half, 2 years after I was like on my grind, like weekly pretty much, I was, taking I take a lunch or two weekly and just swing by the pawn shop, man. Just be like, y'all got anything in? And sometimes, sometimes it was a miss. Sometimes it was a big paper bag full of shit.
Yeah.
And then my heart's racing. Mm-hmm. So it was worth it. It's worth swinging by. But then after a while, at some point, you walk in and you get a cold, hard no. And we don't deal with retro games. Some of them, it's sad. So if you have to resort to online, which mostly you're going to have to, at least where I'm from, it's best to think about what you have, think about what you play, and maybe swap around. And it's something that doesn't occur to you as a kid, but we're adults here. And, we live in a place where capitalism is a thing. So, it feels a lot better to me to support a hobby with the hobby. And I think you can agree with me on that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do agree. In terms of implementation, I have taken pretty much the complete opposite approach in terms of I've always been kind of a hoarder mentality. I'm just kind of overcoming that through the years and everything, but I've had a lot of hard time parting with things over the years because I find myself anytime I've parted with something, not anytime, but very often I would find myself regretting it or, wondering if it was the right choice, stuff like that. So it led to me sort of having an aversion to it. So I have taken the approach of the complete opposite, really, which is just only buying exactly what I want and sort of not flipping. I think that it's interesting because we kind of have two sides of the same coin and we can kind of approach it, differently on each angle. Because my mentality has always been sort of patience. I've always been a late adopter of new things for the most part. So purchasing from Craigslist is something that I have done quite a bit of, and trying to find, even around the release of certain things, just trying to find the right deal for me and, you know, what I'm willing to spend, and just showing sort of patience and just sort of hoping that that pays off. So I do think it's interesting, because what you are saying probably makes more sense in terms of practicality, but I just have such a hard time selling what I have, if that makes sense.
You just got to understand that I've evolved, and that this is over a timeline. I mean, this is something I have fluctuated so much on this to get where I am in my head. Like, I remember at one point I was accumulating to accumulate. Bottom line, if you had a bag full of sports games, I'm taking all of them. Just point blank, period. I was just accumulating. And like I said, at one point I had this unreal, like, oh, maybe I one day could have a fucking full NES set. Looking back, that was the dumbest thought ever. It's not happening. Just a mere thought. I wasn't going for it. That's the difference. I wasn't actively like, I am on a quest to have every single NES game. You know what I mean? But when I got close to 300 games, you start thinking, you're getting there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I found I was where you were as far as the hoarder thing. I wanted to hold on to things. It was easy to sell. When I wanted NES games and was building my collection, it was easy to sell certain things. Like I talk about the Mario Party 2 from time to time, just because I remember that was early on, and that was one of my first big hits. Like as far as like a little thing happening where I was like, oh shit, you know. And I got it for $5, flipped it for 60, and suddenly you have $60 to buy multiple NES titles, you know. And that's the name of the game, is like a sacrifice. Like I don't particularly want to part with Mario Party 2, but I just achieved what I came here to achieve. I got something to get some capital, you know, if not just for my own peace of mind, not, you know, spending just raw funds on it, like funding it.
Yeah.
It's just something, something to feel good about.
The operation, basically.
But I found that when it came to, you know, in my head, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm flipping this, flipping that, but this is off limits. My off limits slowly started to become, you know, smaller. Once you start to get rid of something, it's like taking a dive off a cliff. Once you like let go of something. I do understand
that, yeah.
Because I owned a game on the NES, Wally Bear and the No Gang. Not a very common game. You know, it's a little known about just because it's like, you know, it wasn't printed very highly. It's a little pricier. But I think when I sold that game, that's when I was like, you know what? I'm comfortable selling games that I don't actively play. Or that don't have some significant purpose to me. Like,
and that loops back around to what I was saying. Like, I think if you really wanted to start from a base level, the first thing to do is figure out what your goal is. What are you trying to achieve with your collection? You know, for you wanted to accumulate NES games that evolved over time, and you used that to then, you know, finance some other goals that you might have. For me, my goal has always been, I want full access for every main series Pokemon game that I can get my hands on. And beyond that, it's just, you know, maintaining access to the games that are important to me, systems that are important to me, and just being patient as I slowly kind of grew things over the years, you know?
Yeah, and then I mentioned earlier that the patience thing is a great thing to bring up regarding this, because when you go online and you see what you want, you could just buy it. You could just hit it for the price, just go for it. But I spent a lot of time watching things. You just never know. You just watch and watch and watch. And a lot of things that I picked up and flipped were things that I feel like somebody might have not understood what they had. One thing that comes to mind, for example, I used to have like this immaculate, complete in box Nintendo, the NES cleaning kit, like the official cleaning kit with Mario on it. and it was immaculate, and it had not for resale on it, promotional use only. And I copped that for like $15 to $20 and thought, this is a special item. And I didn't see any others. I was like, this is a special item. I'm going to go ahead and dive on this. And that's part of the evolution. See that type of thing? Like, I'll buy these limited editions now for games I really care about. You know, like I'll get the Quake, Loop Hero, the Among Us, things like that. But when it comes to this specific instance, you know, you just kind of have to weigh it out. So sometimes you flip things and you wind up getting something you want more, but that's not to say you don't maybe regret that you flipped a certain thing. So you want to definitely think closely about what you get rid of, obviously. I don't know if you have any off-top regrets if you want to go down that direction, but...
No, I want to focus more on the how-to side. Definitely, I would
because speaking from experience is definitely something that helps people.
Definitely. What I want to ask you is like, what, you know, if we talk about online sources, where are you looking? What resources are you using? Obviously, we talked about eBay, and you and I, and while we were planning this segment, or maybe not, we just kind of recently talked about eBay auctions. I think that's a good place to look for sure. Sort by ending soonest. You can sometimes snipe something that's on auction that, you know, maybe there was a couple versions of it. One of them didn't get as many hits. You know, I've definitely pulled a few things like that, and we talked about that a little bit earlier.
Yep.
Do you have any other resources that you would suggest for people who are maybe looking to purchase some retro things?
Completed and sold listings, as far as like when you're looking for values, most of the time reliable, but there can be foul play with that. You know, sometimes items can or cannot be paid for. That's the thing you don't know. But you can see when a listing is ended and it's been sold for a certain amount. So people like to hop on eBay and say it's going for this because the first listing has a price.
Definitely.
These prices fluctuate not only based off of condition, but based off of the seller.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe the gap in price I've seen on some of these things.
Yeah, sorting by completed listings is a big tool as well for eBay, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of aggregate what the actual going rate is.
They also had a site that I was on. It's no longer referred to as Nintendo Age. I think now it's called GameSage.com. I could be wrong about that. I think that's what it is now. But whatever Nintendo Age is now, they actually had a trading and selling feature to the forum. I would actually recommend that. I think that using something like Reddit is just a little too sketchy to me. You want to go to a very curated like group of people if you want to do any type of trading, and not to mention this stuff is cataloged on the site. Like the site has functionality for this type of thing.
Yeah, a lot of trading of Magic cards on the higher end is done in Facebook groups, like special Facebook groups around that specific interest. In terms of, there's one for signed cards, there's one for damaged or misprint cards, right? Like these types, if you have a niche interest, a Facebook group, an internet forum, oftentimes you'll find people willing to negotiate sales at lower than market value because you have that community aspect integrated. So I think that's a great point.
Yeah, definitely. And I find it to be, you know, it's just things like Facebook Marketplace. I've heard about people picking up Craigslist, you know. Now, I would say that that's a good option, but I've never purchased anything off of either, but I have sold on Craigslist. Really? Yeah. I have.
I've done a lot of purchasing on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. I'll tell you my biggest use case for it that I could recommend. When I got my PS4, which was already on down the line of the PS4's life cycle, one thing that I had to do straight away was get Rock Band 4. I've been a big fan of the Rock Band games. I've owned all of Rock Band 1 through 3, and I'd gotten rid of my instruments, you know, over time and stuff like that. So a combination of eBay and everything, but the main place that I was able to reconstruct this sort of arsenal of instruments that I wanted to be able to play Rock Band efficiently, Facebook Marketplace was definitely big for that, because
it was instrumental, you could say.
These things are very expensive on eBay. Like a Rock Band 3 wireless guitar, you can pay upwards of 80, 90, $100 for just the guitar. But I found a listing, and this was quite a few years ago now, but Rock Band 4 for the PS4 had been out for a while, so it wasn't that long ago. I was able to get like a couple guitars, the drum set, the keyboard, and a microphone or two for like $100, which was absolutely unbelievable. Like, buying all those things, even in the condition they were in, individually would have cost me several $100s. So these types of community places, and I've talked about my Switch and my Wii U were both purchased from Craigslist. Just being patient. Both of those purchases were made after weeks of checking Craigslist every, second or third day, maybe even months, where I'm waiting to see this deal, this bundle that has enough value for me to pull the trigger. And that's the biggest thing that we talked about with patience and everything.
Yep. I sat and watched a lot of things, man. And sometimes the big catch that you want to do is catching a listing that's not particularly an auction, but a brand new listing. That is just the best. I mean, like, so many things I've picked up and been like, this can't be for real. And then you catch it in time. Or how many times have you watched something that was just put up and you're like, that is interesting. And then you come back and check it an hour or two later. This listing has ended. I can't tell you how many times, when you want to talk regret, that I regret not getting something that was available, and then the listing was over, and then that was the last time
just
that deal.
Watch instead of buy it now.
Yep. So
that's the thing. You have to,
not to say be impulsive, but
don't be impulsive, but once you start looking, you need to be prepared, or at least know what your timeline for purchasing is. That's a big part of it. Like, once you start looking, you need to be ready to pounce on the correct deal.
Absolutely. And it's hard to target one type of collector when you want to give advice, but because a lot of things, like we said, factor in. Are you picky about condition? When I first started off with the NES games, I was like really picky. I wanted all of them to be the label fully intact and look pretty nice. Most of my games are nice, but along the way, I kind of liked games that were, just had some character to them. That they look used, and the label's all there and everything. It's not like anything's ripped off of them. That's a whole different story. But
we've mentioned this, I think, just in talking you and me in the past, that some of these signs of natural wear and tear and fading can contribute to the authenticity of a game in a world where a lot of online listings are for reproduction items.
Absolutely, and that is a big tip we want to give to anyone. If the price is too good to be true, it is. It's a reproduction. Pokemon games, beware. High price games on cartridge, beware. Disc-based.
If the listing says new, that's always a repro. If it's a stock image,
if 97 have been sold.
Yep.
Or 160 to 168 have been sold. Don't do it.
Pro. Yep.
So yeah, if you're buying an expensive game, you want to see pictures of the board.
Yeah.
I personally, when I sell games, I like to have, if it's a pricier game, the board, and pictures of the game on the TV, multiple frames of the game being played. I mean, I'll do title screen and then some shots from the first level just to show it doesn't like soft lock at the, at the home screen or something.
Yeah.
So definitely look out for things like that. Detailed pictures. I mean, sometimes, you want to see the certain spine of a game because you're like, okay, I put my games in this direction. So say you're buying a box game, but it's only got a front and a back picture. Like that's gonna peeve you because you're gonna be like, man, but the side of it could be destroyed. I'm just seeing the front and the back. Look for something with detailed images.
Or if you really feel good about a listing, but there's something you're not sure about, message the seller. Most people are happy to take additional pictures.
Absolutely. I have taken additional pictures and I've actually requested them and it's never been an issue.
Yep. Most people are just happy that you're engaging with the listing and you're, interested in purchasing, and they'll do what they can to accommodate your questions in almost all cases, if it's a legit seller.
And also,
anyone who's not willing to work with you on that, that's something that you should be cautious of.
Definitely. And you see, I'm mainly a cartridge collector. I started with the original DMG in like 2011, and then I went on to NES and then rekindled the 64. And I've always been a cartridge type of person. So one thing I can say to people that are collecting, it's not always the game that doesn't work. You definitely want to make sure your system's maintained, because I've actually had a few instances where somebody messaged me and was like, oh, I'm having trouble getting the game to work. And I'm not trying to insult anybody, but I literally have been like, have you tried to take the game out and firmly put it back in? And then I've literally gotten messages back like, oh, that worked. Thank you. So sorry for the, for the inconvenience. And it's like, no problem.
It's just a lack of awareness. These things
happen. Yeah.
Right?
So, I mean, I guess somebody would assume is when you press that game in and drop it down, it's supposed to fire up. This is old, finicky hardware. You got to keep up with this shit. Not everybody knows that they have a pin connector that needs to be replaced. So that's why I keep pin connectors on hand, dude. And I even keep the old ones. So you can always, bend the pins back. You can always, repurpose them. So that's another thing. Like I had only one time I ever had any item returned, and it was an NES game. I think it was Clue Clue Land, when I decided I wasn't going to go for like the full black box set. And that was a game I could part with and not be too, upset about it. The game worked flawlessly. I'm talking about, this isn't even a game you had to you had to do nothing with. I had a fresh connector, popped it in, fired up, tried it 4 times, and even played it for a while. Before I sell a game, I'll play it for a little while to make sure it doesn't kill or anything, And a person returned it, said it doesn't work. That's fine. Issued the refund, got the game. And guess what? Somebody else bought it immediately. Haven't heard from that person ever again.
Yeah.
They're just a proud owner of a working copy of Clue Clue Land. Maybe because they were more in the know.
Yeah. But this is what you'll run into. Absolutely.
But, the sometimes collecting knowledge intertwines with buying knowledge. Some people might want to get into something, but they might not know from trial and error some of the things that we know dealing with this,
Mm-hmm.
But definitely look for transparency in the seller. That's one thing I gotta say for people that are collecting on the online side.
Another thing I would mention is be on the lookout for friends and friends of friends, right?
That was another one I had, dude. I had that on the list because when I first started the NES enthusiasm, I guess I might have posted a pickup when I was online. I don't really do social media these days, but a friend of mine hit me up and was like, man, I got a lot of NES stuff that I really have no feelings for whatsoever. And I was like, oh man, I'd love to buy it from you, So I was like, what you want for it? He gave me some low price because he was my boy, And it was like 15 games and, like a zapper and just assorted shit, I mean, sometimes all you have to do is let it be known that you have an interest in these things and suddenly, oh, well, I got a box of that shit in my attic and I don't give a shit about it.
That's correct.
And that's the magic right there. And it's happened more than once to each of us.
Yeah. A lot of my PS2 games that I have, GameCube games, GameCube controllers that I have just been aggregated from friends over the years who have been willing to just part with stuff that they don't have an interest in keeping up with, moving around a lot, we're of the age that a lot of our friends and family, like, they've moved, they've kind of changed interests quite a bit. You just never know. So I like to just put it out there and say, hey man, if you ever have anything, you ever come across anything, that fits this or this criteria, or you ever not sure about anything, just hit me up, right? Just put your friend hat on and say, hey, I've been into collecting a little bit, maybe we can do something together, right? People want to learn, and collecting with a friend is always going to be better than collecting by yourself. I mean, as you and I have learned.
I've met people through collecting, and like I said, I became friends with a guy, Don, through fixing his NES.
Yep.
He had multiple NES consoles I fixed for him, and you become acquaintances and friends with people, and it's a beautiful thing. That collect. Now, I'm not going to say I'm good friends with everybody I've sold to on Craigslist. Some people are a bit odd, and they get what they want, and that's best where it's left. But I'll tell you what, it was funny doing some Craigslist selling and seeing people that were where I once was. Like, I remember showing up, meeting a guy. I was selling a lot of Super Nintendo games. It's probably about 14, 15 games. And it wasn't anything super spectacular, man. It was a bunch of sports titles for the most part. It had a couple good things in it. Nothing too crazy, though. I wouldn't have sold any hard hitters by any means. This was like a getting rid of sports titles and things I'm definitely not going to. It was like a one-go curation of my Super Nintendo collection. And this guy was just over the moon about it. I'm like, not a whole lot in there that's, crazy, man, but there's this and that, and he's like, oh, man, I'm just happy to find anything, And I'm thinking, man, I remember those times, just being happy to find, like, any asshole with a shoebox of Super Nintendo games, no matter what the games are.
Absolutely.
So he got that surge of, and it's so funny because I feel like I was in that boat one day. Of course, I was much younger. I'm still young now. But when you come across somebody, and don't smile at me like that, I am young.
You're as young as you feel.
I feel young.
And if you're playing Ring Fit Adventure, that's probably a pretty good sign.
Yay. On the hardest difficulty. Next time I get on there, I'm cranking that difficulty, actually. I'm young. Make it be known and let it be heard.
That's right.
But anyway, not to diss anybody I've sold to on Craigslist, because some of them seem like they might stalk me and kill me. But people have been very enthusiastic, and I'm enthusiastic as well. But I see an enthusiasm in them that kind of subsided in me.
Different people have different goals.
Definitely,
right?
yeah.
At the top.
And but somebody who plays the games, though, that's something. Before we kind of ease out of the 101. Something about sealed games is an interesting topic, right? Because people might get into collecting and be a little intimidated by things like people who have sealed collections and graded games.
My recommendation for any new person to collecting would be to start off collecting things that you want to play.
Absolutely.
And have access to. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, I kind of, when I first started out, I had a couple sealed games because there were some titles. Now that's changed because of I'm not trying to, get angry on the podcast or anything, but some of these companies like WADA that are exploding these graded sealed game prices through the roof. It's just, it's a little sickening. But I remember having a couple of sealed titles on older platforms because they were so common, so keep this in mind. Unless there's a sealed game that you really, really, truly want, if you just want to own a sealed game, you could probably get a pretty common title, but I evolved in my thinking to where I feel like it's kind of almost wrong in a way. Because these, like something, I wouldn't feel that way about something modern retail, which might be a little contradictory. Say you get a special edition of something and you want to keep it sealed, that's fine. But I feel like a game is produced to be played, and when it comes to these retro classics, I can't tell you that I'd actually want a sealed copy. I'd be more attracted to a complete in-box copy that I can pop open and pull the cartridge out and look at it and put it in.
I certainly wouldn't recommend sealed games as a starting point.
Oh, that's,
even if that is your eventual goal.
yeah, but people who would get into that, I probably think would be more into the investment side. We're really talking from a gamer's perspective.
Correct. And that's a good point. That's a really good point, man. We're talking about this from the perspective of people who are collecting to create access to these titles and be able to play them. We're not investors. And, that's something that I mentioned at the top. When you mentioned flipping, I said that's not really my thing. But you're not into long-term speculation or anything either. That is a totally separate podcast. I'm sure you can find out there on your podcast platform of choice if you really want to get into speculative game investing.
Yeah,
that's a whole other ball game, and the games aren't even games at that point. And the same is true of Magic cards. There's a lot of people who make their entire living on speculating Magic cards. But that's not what we're talking about, really.
No, like everything on this shelf is something that even if it's like I'm sure you see the baby blue card, that's Bible Adventures. I'm not going to play that on my own, but that's a game that I certainly want to show people. There's certain reasons to own certain things. I got this Deadly Towers right here. See this?
Mm-hmm.
This is not a good game. The reason I own this is because it came in this rental case. They destroyed the box. They cut the box to fold it into this rental case. Has the manual, has the cartridge. Game works. And I got it for $7. So sometimes there's just no-brainer things. And there's no point in flipping it.
Right.
Because it has no
value.
Yeah. But to me, this is so cool. Like, this is so cool to have Deadly Towers. Of course, it's not cool that they defiled the art and just cut the box, and made this makeshift, case with it.
But it's unique.
But it's unique. It is. And it's an NES game that works. And, if anything, I could be like, show people, hey, check out how bad Deadly Towers is. So there's a reason to own certain games, but you kind of want to think from the standpoint of a reason to pop it in. There's a reason I went from almost 300 games to 100 and a few. That's a big drop, Tyler.
That is big drop.
But I think we should. There's a lot we could say regarding collector advice, and we're going to do a lot more talking about collecting because honestly, that's probably my favorite topic that we cover, Tyler. Honestly, I mean, I'm passionate about.
I gotta rein you in. I gotta rein you in sometimes.
Yep, I'm passionate about physical media.
Discussion every episode.
I'm with that. We could just make a collector cast, 30 minutes long, where we just ramble about our bullshit and talk about the games we have and want.
Maybe that's our future Patreon.
We could call it the games we have and want. That could just be the name of it. Yeah. But let's close this out by kind of stating where we are as collectors, because like I said, there's been an evolution over the years. We've gone up and down with what we're interested in. Mm-hmm. Personally, I feel like where I'm at with collecting is I don't see myself acquiring a whole lot more retro. I get on eBay, I look around, I find things I'm interested in. I mean, the Mario's Picross, that was $10 and pretty good shipping because I imported it. It's the only game I've ever actually imported from Japan. But the prices are just not what I'm interested in. Plus, this is something that kills the itch, for example. Now I own a complete in-box Japanese Game Boy game, and it's Mario's Picross. So now I don't feel like I have to go own a bunch of boxed Japanese Game Boy games because I have one that kind of represents all of them, right?
Sure, yeah.
And people might view that differently, but that's where I'm at with collecting. I'm going to pick up Switch releases. That's my most active collecting I do is new Switch releases. Mm-hmm. And I'll continue to keep a lookout for these special editions by Limited Run, Special Reserve. Haven't seen anything I wanted to dive on as much as Loop Hero and Quake, but that's the type of thing I am interested in as a collector. Mm. Just those special packages like the Among Us Crewmate Edition that I'm interested in. I like these games with pack-ins and, for certain titles. So I could see myself collecting that further. Switch titles, special editions of special things. But as far as retro, man, I know I listed a lot today with the 64 and the imports. That kind of was just, I feel like me getting the last of it out of my system for quite a while. But of course, there's always things in the back of your mind that you want. And that's kind of what I wanted to ask you. Maybe you could state where you are with the whole collecting thing, and maybe if there's anything on your mind that you, even if not realistically planned on purchasing, that you had interest in keeping an eye on.
So the biggest thing, there's one N64 game that I need to purchase. That's Pokemon Stadium 2. This is well documented, and there's nothing for it at this point. I'm just gonna have to find a copy that I can stomach the price and make it happen before it goes up too much further.
Luckily, I already have it, but the price is definitely going over 100.
Yeah, so that's the type of thing where I'm going to be looking around at all my options and trying to just make it shake where I can. Beyond that, like you mentioned, Switch purchases, that's going to be number one for me. We're not talking about digital here, but, a lot of my focus is going to be digital games on the PC and on Steam, in advance of the Steam Deck and everything. That's kind of like where my mind is at this exact second. In terms of physical, just continuing to buy the major Switch releases that are impactful to me. A few retro things. Obviously, I just got an NES for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be something where I'm gonna want to fill out my library of the key items that I personally need to own, which is probably, for when we're talking about the NES, SMB 2 and 3 if possible. I don't know what SMB 2 is like to purchase. Hopefully it's not too terrible.
Last I checked, man, I think they're more in like the $20 range, 2 and 3. I'm not sure if that still stands, but not terrible. They were massively printed, luckily. Only problem is over time, I feel like certain games, certain people don't want to let go of their cartridge of. That's where the price goes up.
The only other thing where I feel I need to own a copy of it is probably The Legend of Zelda. I think that's gotta be done at some point. I think that's a really cool thing to own physically.
You should look into, I don't know how cheap some of the Sunsoft games are, but man, you could get like Batman and Blaster Master, I think affordably.
I don't care to fill up my library with things, just things, like we mentioned. I just want a few select items to actually play. Totally,
man. I don't know what Zelda would go for.
I saw it at the game store near me for $30 on the shelf. That's inflated, mall game store prices, but that's not terrible to have in my pocket.
Yeah, that's not terrible at all, man. But
and that was gold cartridge and everything, just the cartridge.
Yeah, I think the one that isn't gold is actually more valuable.
But I would want the gold just because of how amazing it looks.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's it for me, man. Just, really trying to keep laser focused on what I'm purchasing physically, because I only have so much space, right? And I only have so much time to play games. So just trying to keep focused on that.
Yeah, I'm in a really happy place with my collection as a whole, man. I really am. I can't think of much there's little things, of course, that you want to own, like childhood games that we don't have anymore. But just some things are unreasonable, I really wish I had my childhood copy of Super Metroid, but Super Metroid's like an $80 game. And it's not the Super Famicom thing, just I'd have to get a Super Famicom. I don't want to get a new system. I like the backwards, the compatibility of the Japanese with the US and 64. That's convenient. But aside from that, I wouldn't pick up a new system. That's for sure.
Right.
But I think we got some good talking today, man, as far as advice and insight. Because, a lot of it is, it's not a seminar to do nothing but give advice. But I think we've talked about a lot of experience that helps.
Definitely, yeah. I'm excited to do another topic like this in the future. I like these informational segments where we just kind of like, we don't purport to be experts, right? This isn't an expert.
Oh, dude, I've said so
guide.
many things wrong on this podcast, and I look back and I cringe at myself.
I know,
Like
and that's the thing, right? This is just our
one time I
our
referred
experience.
to Yasunori Mitsuda as Junichi Masuda.
How dare you?
I know. Yasunori
No, but
Mitsuda, I am sorry.
this is us giving empirical experiences anecdotally. This is not an expert professional guide to game collecting.
Absolutely.
Obviously.
Also, I remember another thing. I keep track of these things in my head, as weird as it may be. I remember when we were talking about the honeybee. I think I had gotten mixed up when we were talking about Japan and all that. The honeybee is to play Japanese Famicom games on the NES. I think I might have said something about PAL. We started talking about PAL and North America, NTSC, and I got wires crossed. And you know, it's funny, I actually put a correction down in here. Remember when we were talking about the Chrono Cross remake?
Mm-hmm.
And I said something about thinking it was 50. That is $19.99.
Oh,
that
nice.
is a
That's
great
good.
price, and I am getting that.
Yeah, that's
Chrono
a good deal.
Cross Radical Dreamers Edition, $19.99. I'm all there for that.
Definitely.
Anyway, enough of our past failures. Let's wrap up the collecting 101 and roll straight into the Steam Deck indies.
Yeah, man. I'm really excited for this.
This is a no order situation.
Yeah, we're not even going to go 10 to 1 on this. No honorable mention. Just 10 games that you should get for your Steam Deck that are indie developers. I mean, that's really as specific as we want to get with it.
Yeah. Do you want to start us off, my brother?
I would love to. So we're going in no particular order. Sterling just mentioned that, but we're going to be a little bit all over the shop with this. But I'm going to start with one that, for me, it's a game that I've talked about on here, but I just love this game so much. Beamng Drive is a hyper-realistic car physics driving simulator with a lot of mod support, a lot of community interest. The game has gotten tons of updates just in terms of physics engine, UI, stability, and everything in the past few years. And if you want to crash cars into a giant, grinder, or, see what it looks like when a bus hits a plane, or, there's tons of just beautiful, huge maps with wonderful environments that you can just drive around without crashing stuff. It's absolutely awesome, but the community made content for the game is unbelievable. Just these huge maps with crazy physics stuff that you can do, huge ramps or portals into another dimension, or like these huge contraptions that'll crush your vehicles in a million different interesting ways. Like, I can't recommend the game enough. It's one of my most played games on Steam, and I think the option to play it on the Steam Deck is going to really breathe new life for me, because I pair a controller to play this game 100% of the time. So driving games for me, that's always going to be a controller situation. I could never really get the hang of driving games with a mouse and keyboard. So I'm really excited for that. I'm excited for just the control options that you get with the Steam Deck. And that's what we're going to talk about a lot, is just the different sort of options that playing these games on Steam Deck will give us that we haven't really had before.
Definitely. A lot of the thoughts I had with these games were more catered to the use case of the Steam Deck. There's a lot of indie games that wouldn't utilize anything particularly unique about the Steam Deck, but it's nice to focus on ones that have some integration, because a big thing going into this is thinking about Switch versions and Steam versions, and that I tried to keep that thought prevalent the whole time. And Beamng Drive is something I need to try. I still have not played the game.
Man, it's so amazing. You would love it.
Usually when you say I love something, I do. The next one is one I bought for you, though, and I've got to recommend Loop Hero. I have played this game quite a bit on PC, quite a bit on Switch, and I actually think that on the Steam Deck, it brings something to the table that is the perfect marriage of the two. So on PC, obviously I'm playing mouse and keyboard, which is ideal. I got into playing it on the Switch tablet only handheld. I got the DigiRoot stylus that I had gotten for Mario Maker 2. Plays seamlessly. I mean, I love the way it plays. It actually is refreshing to play it on a tablet that way. But now we're going to have the Steam Deck where I can actually play it handheld like I would on the PC. I can actually use a mouse. If this touchpad is as responsive as it's appearing to be, I could play it like I do with the mouse and with the mouse and keyboard handheld. So, or I could just use the touchscreen. It's the perfect marriage of the two. So,
yeah,
Loop Hero is a great game. I thought I'd bring that on the list because it's pretty much just the utilization of, maybe not gyroscopic aiming and whatnot. We'll get into that with other titles. But as far as the touchscreen, the mouse controls, it's a pretty good game to bring how we play them on different platforms all into one, and you have your option of how you play it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's a great pick. I'm excited to play Loop Hero on the Steam Deck. I think that's going to be really, really fun.
Definitely, man. It's
really
going to be perfect for it.
That. My next one is going to be sticking to the theme of games that we've acquired recently, and this was actually you. When we were brainstorming this list, I mentioned this game being The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, and you said you actually picked this up on sale recently without us even talking about it. So
yep.
I think that's awesome, and a lot of people listening to this would probably be familiar with The Binding of Isaac, but it is a roguelike game that just has a lot of very interactive elements, a lot of very interesting imagery, and it's just, as far as roguelikes in the last 10 15 years, you're not going to find one that's more accessible and just more fun. And being on the Steam Deck is just going to add to that. I personally own the game on Steam, but I have a good friend who has put hundreds of hours into Binding of Isaac Rebirth on the Switch, and I've seen him play it quite a bit, and I think it's, playing it handheld and with controls like that is going to be the way to go, because the sort of axis of movement really lends itself to using a D-pad or something like that, whereas you may lose that a little bit with a mouse and keyboard. I just think that the experience on the Steam Deck is perfectly going to be tailored for a game like this. So that's why I'm really excited to install it, straight away. I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's one of my little brother's favorite games, and it's come highly recommended from both of y'all, and I've heard a lot about it. No excuse for me not playing it yet, so if I don't get to it by the Steam Deck, I'll be playing it on Steam Deck.
And I mentioned this to you earlier when we had this conversation, but the game is a setup as a slam dunk for something that you're going to fall in love with. I already know that.
Awesome, dude. When the Steam Deck comes out, I'm going to play all these winter sale games I got that I didn't launch. I got Chicory: A Colorful Tale, didn't launch it. I got Bug Fables: The Everlasting Sapling, that Paper Mario inspired game. Haven't launched it. And those are games, I was dying to play that. Still haven't launched it, man.
The backlog is real.
The backlog is too real. But yeah, Binding of Isaac, great for the list, man. I can't wait to get into it. The next one that I wanted to throw out is going to be Dusk. There's a lot of shooters that I could recommend on here. Hrot, Cruelty Squad, Ion Fury, so many great shooters. But Dusk has got to be the one, just because another situation. You've got mouse and keyboard, ideal for any shooter. You've also got the gyroscope on the Switch, on the Steam Deck. when I was playing Quake with my girl yesterday, I got to really experiment with the sensitivity of the gyro. And I really do think, and I said it before, it's almost like we're dead in the middle with it. The 50% there to it being like mouse and keyboard with this motion. So I think I haven't picked Dusk up on the Switch yet. I know I said I was. But then Steam Deck got announced. And now I'm going to be able to play it with a touchpad that's basically a mouse, the gyroscope. There's just going to be every way you could possibly play the game. Steam Deck is going to offer it. And if you're going to pick up an FPS and be impressed in the indie realm, Dusk is definitely going to be the one to do it.
Yeah, that's a great pick, man. I'm actually looking forward to trying that game out once the Steam Deck comes around. I think that's going to be the perfect time for it.
I've played everything in that game, and I've got to tell you, it is amazing. It's everything that a fan of Quake or any of these, even the newer retro-styled shooters, it's just kind of the king. Let's just lightly say it's the king, you know.
My next one is the recent indie king of its genre as well, I would say. And this is in a genre where we see a lot of games. Celeste is the cream of the crop in the terms of these difficult action platformer games. We've seen a lot of games in this style, but I'm not sure how many of them beat out Celeste in terms of quality gameplay, satisfying mechanics, beautiful visuals and audio and music. I just feel like it's the whole package, and
couldn't have said it better.
I find myself gravitating towards playing this game handheld on the Switch, just because I don't know why. It just feels right. There's something about it that it feels so instantaneously integrated, whereas with a Pro controller, I don't know, there's a sense of disconnected from your hands to the screen. And in a game like Celeste, you need these perfect actions to be able to progress, right? Like, the platforming aspect of Celeste is difficult.
Precision is demanded. Precision is demanded in Celeste.
So I think the just tactile feeling of having it all right there in front of you, it's what makes it so satisfying. So it's going to be a very early install for me once I have the Steam Deck. Celeste, if you haven't played it, pick it up. We mention it all the time, you know, on this podcast. It's a game that has continued to get free content updates over time. It's got a massive fan base. It's got a massive speedrunning community. It's a great game.
It is an amazing game. And platformers is something I'm looking forward to just because we love platformers. And, you know, we'll see what the D-pad on this thing's like. I've been playing Blaster Master Zero again. That's a game I played on 3DS, heavy. It'd be cool to play stuff like that. Now, I actually wanted to get the Curse of the Moon games on Steam, but the controller support was terrible. So maybe this type of thing will fix that. And then suddenly I'll be getting a lot more platformers on Steam.
I'm interested in that as well. There's certain games that are ports of older games or for whatever reason don't have good controller support. I'm very interested to see how games like that interact with the Steam Deck. The biggest one that comes to mind for me straight away is the original ported versions of the PS2 GTA games. They didn't have good controller support at all. They didn't have any controller support on those original ported versions. So I'm interested to see how those ports play on the Steam Deck.
Definitely.
Nothing to speak of the trilogy, which neither of us still have. And I don't have any plans on purchasing anytime soon, honestly.
And nobody can purchase these
ports
that we're talking about. So that's pretty interesting as well.
But I own San Andreas, Vice City, GTA 3 on Steam. And I'm certainly going to install these on the Steam Deck.
Oh, you better believe it. I have all three, and I'll be installing all of them as well.
But, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to hijack your point there.
No, not at all. How about we do a fighting game off the heels of the Street Fighter 6 announcement? And it's one of my favorite games, Rivals of Aether.
Yeah. This feels so right for the Steam Deck, man. It really does.
Yeah, and you think about fighting games on the Steam Deck, and I think about, man, it's going to be really cool. Maybe they'll do something with these touchpads with inputs. You know what I mean? Because we'll get into. There's another game we're going to talk about. They have some special support for shortly, but if they had some special support for this, that'd be, well, not for this. Fighting games require inputs, sometimes directional, most of the time directional, things like Street Fighter and, Guilty Gear. Rivals of Aether is more like Smash. So you don't really need to input combos and whatnot. You're really playing it live, and it's, you got your tilts, you got your strong attacks. So
I see where you're going with this.
As far as there could be implementation in fighting games that Steam Deck specific, but for this, I think you're just getting what you know and love in a great format, playable the way you know and love it. Because like I said, when I play it on Switch, I'm playing it on Switch. When I'm playing it on PC, I'm in big picture mode with my Pro Controller.
Yep.
So now that just basically puts my Pro Controller on my tablet, and I'm playing it on a handheld PC. So, I mean, it's going to be a fantastic experience, man. Maybe we'll play some Rivals on the Steam Deck.
Yeah, I think it's got to happen, definitely.
While we're pooping,
it's gonna
maybe.
Be something that makes me want to pick that game up in a bigger way, I think.
I already gifted it to you.
I know. We played it a little bit just on Steam.
Oh, I thought you meant picked up as in buy.
No, I mean pick up and play.
Yeah, gotcha.
Definitely. So we've already mentioned this game today because I mentioned it in my pickup section, but Terraria is my next one on the list.
And Terraria is a dead ringer.
And this is almost in the first breath of the Steam Deck being announced. This was one of the games we were talking about.
Definitely.
And I think it's just such a perfect candidate for handheld play. Obviously, it's available on the Switch. You've played it on the 3DS. I've only played it on Steam, but I feel like, just like you said, and we've said with some of these other games, it's going to marry that handheld experience that we're used to on the Switch with the more optimized experience, the more efficient ability to use menus and use inputs of the PC version. And that's really it.
We're going to be able to play it on handheld the way we do on desktop.
Correct.
And I saw that Terraria put out a Steam Deck, like an update, and they were showing some specific inputs. It looked like certain parts of the touchpad are for certain functionalities, like a quick,
that sounds amazing.
Quick heal, and things like that. So to think that you're moving along with your stick or whatever whatever your method of travel is, and you can touch on certain spots to have certain actions happen on the fly. Get used to that pretty quick, and suddenly you're playing Terraria as intuitively as you probably ever have.
Yeah, no question.
We love to see it, dude. That's going to be a Steam Deck champion.
I agree. I think the fact that their developers already preemptively coding these things in with these special Steam Deck control, integrations, that gives me a lot of hope. A lot of hope that we're going to see that in a wide way.
It's really going to bring a lot of uniqueness to the Steam Deck platform, man, where who knows, you could eventually see the preferred method of play for certain games be the deck. It's interesting.
We might start seeing like Steam Deck speedruns.
Or you might start seeing, competitive tournaments like esports played on Steam Decks. Really
interesting possibilities.
Yep, we'll see, man.
I just want to mine underground and kill a giant eye. Like, that's all I really care about.
I mean, hey, that's what it's all about, dude.
Yeah.
The next one is a lighthearted, enjoyable game. Just Tome, T-O-E-M. I've mentioned this game before. It's like a photography adventure. It's an amazing indie game. I think anyone could pick it up, enjoy it, play it through without too much time investment. But I think the thing that's going to shine on the Steam Deck is really going to be the gyroscope. I know you can play this on Switch, and I can't confirm that there's gyroscope functionality, but I would imagine there is. I just think that Tome with gyroscope, fantastic. I mean, it's a game where you're going into camera mode, you know, in your first person, and in a very low poly type of way. These environments are very beautiful. So this is one of those games I think of where I can't wait to fire it up and just see it in action on the Steam Deck.
Yeah, I can't wait.
That's about it, man.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited, man. This game definitely has my interest. So, as I mentioned with some of these other ones that I haven't personally played, like, it's going to be the great opportunity to do so. It's
one of those like whimsical Paper Mario style games, but there's just no combat. There's no taking damage. It's just a joyful little adventure, man, with the freedom of taking photos, you know.
The last thing that I have to share with the class today is a game that I've talked about more times than I can count on this podcast, and it's a game that I hold near and dear to my heart, and most likely is going to be the first thing that I install on my Steam Deck when I get it, is Slay the Spire. You know it, you love it, you expected it, but that's what it is. This is the perfect game for the Steam Deck. We've talked about, you know, how awesome it is in handheld on the Switch. The PC experience brings something extra to the table. There's a lot of fan content for Slay the Spire, as there is with Terraria, and I'm very interested to see how the Steam Deck is going to handle mod support and stuff like that. But just the possibilities of using your Steam integration and playing Slay the Spire handheld and being able to tactilely interact with your hand and just still have all the options that the buttons of the handheld give you. Can't wait. That's all I have to say. I can't wait to play Slay the Spire on the Steam Deck.
And I've enjoyed Slay the Spire quite a bit, and because you purchased that for me, it's funny that you purchased that for me. I purchased Loop Hero for you. We're going to get our card game jollies on the Steam Deck courtesy of each other.
No question.
But the final one for me is a pretty obvious one, if anybody knows anything about me, and that's Stardew Valley.
Yep. I feel like this is another one where, in the same breath of the Steam Deck's announcement, this is what you were hearing about.
This might be the true showcase of intuitive lax PC gameplay on a handheld, really. Because
Definitely.
You don't need this precise mouse movement like a shooter would need. All you need is control of the mouse. I could see this being perfect. I mean, you have the option between the touchpads, and you have the option between the touch screen. You've got the sticks. I mean, you have everything. This is going to be, I could see, people who play Stardew Valley heavy wanting a Steam Deck to play it on. I know that sounds silly because there's such high performance things you could play with a, $400 to $600 system. But at the end of the day, man, the Stardew Valley fandom runs deep, and I could see this becoming the scenario we talked about earlier, where this is the preferred platform.
Yep, definitely.
So it was just right for the list, man. But I think we spouted out 10 very deserving indie games today that are going to be very enjoyable on the Steam Deck.
Really excited for the launch, man. Obviously, as we get to place our orders and stuff and we start seeing people getting them in their hands, we'll be talking about it more in the coming episodes.
Absolutely. Dude, that's going to be such an exciting time on the podcast when we have the Steam Deck. There's going to be so much to talk about. I mean, we're going to have to do some type of discussion like owning the Steam Deck. Just,
Yep.
There's enough to get out of it.
Definitely.
But how about we give the people a 3-shot, man?
Let's do it.
Does that sound good to you?
That sounds really good.
So I wanted to shout out Jupiter. We talked about me picking up Mario's Picross for Game Boy, and I kind of feel happiness inside me that I own, a almost 30-year-old product by Jupiter. because I'm currently enjoying Picross so much on the Switch, and Jupiter to this day does the games, and they just do a fantastic job. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to quickly just spout out 3 Picross games on the Switch that I've been playing recently. I picked all 3 up, and all 3 for their own reasons are great, man. They just came out with Picross S7, which now has touchscreen controls. We're doing all this talk about Steam Deck and everything. You would think it's crazy they didn't have them in the prior ones, but to see them come out with one, that's kind of what got me back into it. I was like, oh shit, the new Picross S has touchscreen controls, and I got a pin, you know? So, perfect. Yep, picked that up. Got back into it. Realized they had Picross S, Sega, Genesis, and Master System Edition, which basically it's themed with music from Genesis and Master System, appearances of a lot of characters, and all the puzzles you solve make pixel art of assets from Genesis and Master System games. So that was pretty interesting. So I picked that up, played it a bit, digging it. Yeah. The last one that I wanted to bring up is called Picross Lord of the Nazarick. Now, I'm not familiar with the anime Overlord, but apparently Jupiter did a crossover with Overlord. So this is like a Picross game with some story in it. And the reason I picked it up is because I actually had that thought. I was like, that'd be cool if they did like an RPG or like some type of story element game with Picross included, you know. And I think Mario's Picross 2 did on the Japanese Game Boy. I think you could like walk around as Mario, but there wasn't really adventuring. You were kind of walking up to puzzles to do. So that was cool to see that they had some type of story-driven Picross game.
Yeah.
But the 3 entries for the 3 shop today are 3 great games that I'm now going to get into, Tyler. We've brought it up before, and it's been on 3 shop quite a few times, dude, but I have got to recommend Double Dragon 4 for the sale it's on. Mm-hmm. And that's from $6.99 to $3.50, 49% off until the 9th. Any fan of beat 'em ups, any fan of Double Dragon, this is basically your NES Double Dragon polished up. And I can't recommend it more. Blaster Master Zero is on sale, $9.99 to $4.99 until 3/9, the 9th. The other 2 games in the series are also on sale. You get the same deal on 2, but 3 is down from $14.99 to $10.49, 30% off, and that's all till the 9th. The last one I'm kind of going to urge you to get, Tyler. I don't want to pressure you. But when I saw that this game was on sale, I got really excited because this is one I've been waiting to put back on 3 shop, and that's Merchant of the Skies.
Yeah, you explained this to me before, and I had a definite interest in it.
This game is so slept on. It is incredible. The deal, it's down from $14.99 to $9.89 until the 12th, 34% off. This is the type of game, if they were to come out with some type of limited run or like, you know, special reserve, some type of physical for it, I'd be interested because I think the game is beautiful. It's fantastic. I mean, it's just a great game. The type of thing I could see you getting into just because I know you like, you know, it's got some light art, not RTS, but just kind of like that civilization to civilization, town to town. It kind of reminds me of Pirates on NES. I think I'm just really partial to it, man. And I think for under $10, man, it's an absolute steal.
Yeah, definitely.
But that does it for the 3 shop, and that does it for quite the loaded episode of the Star Road podcast, topping 2 hours here.
Yeah, one thing we didn't even mention, Starling, because it's completely crept up on us. You know what we're going to be able to talk about next episode?
I know it's one of 2 things.
The first thing that I have to think about is Triangle Strategy.
What day is that coming out again? The 4th?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's this week, man. That's like this Friday.
Oh, shit. Well, maybe we'll talk about it. Maybe a Triangle Strategy review will be in order.
Maybe. It depends. That's going to be one where we need to get some time on it before we can really say.
Definitely. That is exciting, dude. I was thinking about Kirby's later in the month, so that'll be the podcast after next.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah. Man, that'll be exciting, dude. We'll have Triangle Strategy in our Switch when we get on here next.
Yep. Can't wait.
But that does it, Tyler.
Yep. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or feedback, please reach out to us at starroadpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find our videos on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe to us there. And Facebook as well. Wow. I was like, what is the other thing?
I was just going to say, live a happy life. I was just going to finish it for you.
Live a happy life. Reach out to us. You know, just enjoy. Go buy some indie games on Steam. Go buy some Picross games on Switch. And yeah, that's really all we got.
Keep physical media alive.
That's right.
Thank you for listening to the Star Road Podcast. I'm Sterling. This is Tyler, and we're out. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.